The many worlds theory is one of the most popular and well-known theories in the world. It states that there are an infinite number of universes which exist separately from one another and are completely different in every aspect. For one example, in one universe you could be a stray dog, while in another you could be the leader of a country. The theory states that for every action you've ever taken or movement you've ever made, there's another parallel universe where you are doing literally anything else. The theory rejects the widely known Copenhagen interpretation, which states that particles can change their behavior whenever they wish, aka saying that when we aren't looking, weird things and impossible things such as furniture moving could happen. The many worlds theory instead implicates that other things are happening, just in a separate universe from ours. This theory first began in 1957, when a man named Hugh Everett III proposed the many worlds interpretation, which he termed his relative state formulation. The main conclusion of the many worlds theory is that the universe is composed of a quantum superposition. That is the principle that any two or more quantum states can be added together to create a new quantum state of many non-communicating parallel universes. The multiple worlds theory regards all of the other possible universes as real, as it regards the universal wave function, that is the principle that describes everything in the universe, as the basic fundamental entity. This theory is referred to as a theory rather than an interpretation by the people who propose that many worlds are falsifiable. According to Hugh Everett, this is actually a meta-theory, as it not only describes the quantum theory, but also other interpretations of it. The many worlds theory is by far one of the most complex and controversial theories of all time, although many believers in the theory are well-known and highly successful scientists and theorists. Some believers in the theory have even branched off of Everett's original proposal and have made their own implications, such as saying that there must be a universe in which we are immortal. This spin-off of the original theory is actually called the quantum suicide thought experiment. Many question how the many worlds theory actually works, stating that if there are an infinite number of universes, how come we can only see one? The answer for this is a phenomenon called quantum decoherence. This just means that for all possible states of a particle to remain in superposition, their system needs to be isolated. Even the movement of a single photon could break the coherence, which would, in the case of the Copenhagen interpretation, cause a wave function collapse, but in accordance with the many worlds theory, would simply just be one of the many other existing realities. The many worlds theory does have many insurmountable challenges that it would need to pass in order to become not a theory. For one, there's no way to test it experimentally, and two, it disagrees with everything we've ever known and ever been taught. The one way to possibly test this theory is with the quantum suicide thought experiment. Although it is absolutely absurd and highly radical. Hans Moravec first brought up this experiment in 1987. The experiment goes as such. An experimenter would be placed in a chamber with a life-terminating device, such as a gun. Every 10 seconds, the spin value of photons would be measured. Depending on the result, the device would either fire or not. This experiment ties the survival of the experimenter to a quantum state, which just means that they now exist in a superposition in which they are both alive and dead. There's a 50% chance of them surviving the initial round, with the same chance every other round that they survive. If they survive 50 such tests in a row, that would be way more than enough to prove the many worlds theory. The experimenter would have had some version of them around to observe his or her supposition, and all other versions of them in every other universe would be dead, thus proving the many worlds theory. This experiment is highly radical and thus has not yet been tested. As for the fact that communication between these separate universes is impossible, according to this theory, yet another implication states that this could actually be possible. There are many other implications of the theory, but the main concept of the theory remains unswayed. Many theorists and quantum physicists have tried to prove this theory, and maybe one day someone will, but for now the many worlds theory remains just that, a theory.